There are 5 major myths about action sports photography that you might believe that might not be true. Let's debunk some myths, shall we? The first myth is that you also need to be really proficient at the sport that you're photographing. I can tell you for a fact that this is not true from my own personal experience. To be honest, I'm not a very talented dirt biker, snowmobiler, or wakeboarder, even though I love to shoot these types of sports. Now don't get me wrong, I am trying to get better at these sports because I do believe that it can put you in a different position to get hired out for bigger jobs. But I think that sometimes we feel like we need to be extremely proficient in the sports that we're shooting before we start sharing that we're photographing that. It is definitely good to know the sports that you're shooting because you're going to know the peak times of action as well as timing and how to communicate with your athletes. I think that when you're really passionate about a sport, this terminology and all these things kind of come because you're diving so deep into the sport, so it becomes much easier without having to do the sport exactly. But I also do believe that when you're surrounded by it, you kind of want to learn and you want to pick that up yourself and kind of get into that sport and into that field. But do you need to be really good at that sport before you start photographing it? In my opinion, I'd say no. Myth number 2, the oldest one in the book. You need to have expensive camera gear to take great photos. I know there's gonna be people that say, oh, well, that's easy for you to say with all your expensive cameras. But recently I've been putting my skills to the test by using my iPhone to take action sports photos. And no, it's not a new iPhone 15 Pro, it's actually an older 11 Pro. And I've been doing this to create a course for phone users to show them how to take the best action sports photos on their phone. Because I don't believe that gear should be a limiting factor to take great action sports photos.
That's wild.
You can own a fancy camera, but unless your skills can capitalize on using that camera, it isn't going to make a difference. The things that really matter when it comes to action sports photography is things like knowing your timing, knowing how to tastefully be creative within your shots, understanding the sports that you're shooting, and having a solid editing process. I'm not gonna sit here and say that gear doesn't matter because we all know that it does. A better standard I wish I would have set for myself at the beginning of my career was your work should warrant the price tag. If you're starting to shoot with higher clients and getting paid more, yeah, it might be a good idea to have a camera with really reliable autofocus and has higher megapixels. The best thing to think about when you're looking into buying camera gear is what is my skill level and am I looking to do this professionally or is it just gonna be a hobby? But it's really nice that now you can get a better quality camera for a lot less money, whereas before, things used to be very expensive for higher quality. Like for example, my Canon 1DX right here, this thing used to be $8,000. That's what I paid for this camera body, just for the body right here. And that was insane. Obviously it was a sports industry leader because of its high frames per second, and as well, even for like the video settings at the time, it was a fantastic camera. But now you can pick this thing up for under $3,000. It's just insane. Like a professional pro body, and you can pick that up for under $3,000. There's a lot out there on Marketplace, eBay, Kijiji, and your money can really go a long way. Like you can get used EF glass as well as the older pro DSLR bodies. And yeah, some people might be thinking, that's still a lot of money for me, but if you're looking to do it professionally, this is a way better option than going in and spending a buttload more money on, let's say, like a high-end mirrorless camera that might cost you $8,000 right now or $6,000 right now. Yeah, maybe just the used marketplace is a better way to go. Anyways, myth number 3, all shots must be tack sharp and in focus. Things have changed a little bit in the action sports industry where motion blur is more accepted because it's seen as more of a creative style. But before, it used to be really frowned upon. Unfortunately though, I do see people overusing motion blur, and instead of using it as a creative choice of expression, they'll use it just because it's the trendy thing to do. When you're just starting out, it is good to try a bunch of different things and figure your camera settings for different environments, but you should always be asking yourself, how is this going to help me tell a better story? I personally like to add motion blur in my photos to showcase speed or even the feeling of chaos. I know that some people believe that photos are meant to be captured with precision and you want to see all the detail in the environment, but I do believe that there needs to be space to share your creative expression. I think that there does need to be a good balance between the two, but should they always be tack sharp? Not always. Myth number 4, you must shoot in manual mode. There are different functions on your camera for a reason, and it doesn't make you less of a photographer if you feel comfortable shooting in different modes. I personally think that in action sports, shutter priority can actually be really helpful. You can dial in the shutter speed that's going to work for the speed of your athlete as well as for your own movement. You can focus more on capturing the sport instead of trying to fiddle with your settings when things are moving so fast. To be honest, I've always felt like I need to use manual mode in order to feel like a professional photographer, but unfortunately when trying to manage my settings, I've missed really important moments. It's definitely good to know your manual functions because you're going to know how your settings work together to take a great photo, But I think that there's a time and a place to use each of these. And realistically, no one's ever gonna know the mode that you're shooting in, and all that really matters is that you walk away with the photo that you had envisioned. Number 5, all action sports photos worth capturing should always be in the height of the action. I have been so guilty of doing this, where I go to a shoot always thinking about the climax moments, and I go home and I look at the photos and I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something. My photo series just never really looked like the professional photographers online. The reason why though is because they were telling a complete story with their images. There's so much more that happens on a shoot that can help to fill in the viewers on what that day was like. We can capture the emotions of our athlete, feature the little details of a location that makes that place really special, and also feature the process of the athlete. I would far rather watch a movie that introduced me to the main character, takes me on a journey up to the climax, and then comes to a point of resolve. It's not that we don't know what makes up a good story, but if you're like me, you get so determined to capture that one moment that's going to stand out that you completely forget to capture everything else that's going on around you. All professional photographers have the ability to make their viewers relate to their images, and that's all built through the power of storytelling. If you like this video and you're looking to level up your action sports photography, consider subscribing, and I also think that you'll like this video where I talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that I see action sports photographers make. I'll catch you over in that video. Peace.